Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. I think I'm finally getting this grow room into its winter state. I know it's not full winter yet, but we're heading there, whether we like it or not. You know, day lengths are dramatically dropping off, amounts of sunshine are limited, and without the sunshine I don't get much heat in here, apart from what gets sucked in from the house. I mean, I'm up to 20 today. That's good enough. I'd like it higher, but it's good enough because I don't know what it went down to last night, probably about 15, 16. Let's have a look-see. I haven't reset this for a while, so I can't tell what last night's temperature was because I haven't actually reset this, so I'll do it now. That way I can at least tell how cold it gets tonight. Strictly speaking, if I want to keep a check on that sort of thing, that needs to be reset during the day, every day, and then I can look in the morning to see how low it got. But the watering really has dropped right off now, to such an extent that I'm getting quite a few days where there's absolutely nothing to do out here. I'm partly enjoying that. You know, the difference between the workload now and, say, the workload in the middle of the summer. You know, in the middle of the summer, my mounts need watering every single day. And some of them are drying out fast enough that they could even take a second watering. You know, you're up 16 hours of daylight with sun. You know, there's a lot of stress on plants at that time of year to actually keep hydrated. Whereas now, the worry is them being too hydrated, if you know what I mean. You don't want, you know, plants that need that wet-dry cycle don't want to stay wet for too long, especially when the temperatures are low. So, like 2 days ago, all of the mounts were watered, and so were the holy clay pots. So the holy clay pots don't need touching today. You know, they're going about 4 days now in between their waterings. The mounts are split into two. There are those that are of the resting type, shall we say. Well, they get missed out on a run now, so instead of every 2 days, they go to 4 days. And when I water them, they get a light watering with no feed, so they're easy. But there are other mounted orchids that don't stop growing. You know, there's some oncidiums, miltonias, my tolumnias. You know, there's my arengis. You know, there's other things in here that are mounted orchids but are not of the sort that rest. They only slow up a bit. So instead of every day, yes, they can go to every second day. That's okay. Unless we get 2 really sunny days, I might rethink that. But the sun's out for such a short time. You know, I only get 2 or 3 hours of heat. So I don't worry too much about it. So every second day. And those mounts they've had a light feed twice now. So today they only need a flush. Yeah, I don't want to pour loads of feed into plants that are hardly growing. They haven't stopped, but they're not what I'd call bursting with life at this time of year. So I can keep the feed levels low. And as I say, so I mean, out of the mounts today, only those that don't stop growing are going to get watered, and they're only going to get a flush, so I haven't got all this mixing up fertilisers and checking pH nonsense. They can just get water. And I reckon outside that's going to take me 15 minutes this morning, and that's it then. That's my job's done out here for the day. The workload really is dropping off now. I'm quite enjoying it. I can find other things to do during the day and get things done that are difficult to get done when I'm really busy out here. Like, you know, in those summer months. The house gets totally neglected that time of year. Whereas this year, you know, think about Christmas coming and who's getting what and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, workload drops off. And, you know, the only thing I can say is that with watering, you know, when you've got cooler temperatures, I know there's people growing orchids where they don't get the cool temperatures. They don't really get a true winter. They don't get the cold nights. Their day lengths don't shorten down. And quite honestly, in places like that, the resting type dendrobiums start getting difficult. Yeah? Because without that drop in temperature, you know, they're not in their ideal environment for the winter, whatever winter you get. Some places just get a wet and a dry season. They don't get spring, summer, autumn and winter like we do here. But where you've got distinct seasons, you know, those resting dendrobiums can do pretty well because you've naturally got the ability to cool them down as long as you can keep the light up. So yeah, this time of year it drops right off. It's a pleasure. There's an element of worry in it, you know. Are the resting types getting enough water? Am I leaving them too long? Keeping my eye on the canes, making sure they don't start sucking in on themselves and looking all drawn. You know, don't want any of that. A little bit, but I don't want a lot. And then you have to consider those that do it naturally. There's two just here. During the growing season, the aggregatum, and in this case that's an aggregatum crossed with Jenkinsii, that's Jenkinsii. These bulbs naturally look like dried up grapes or dried prunes or whatever you want to think of. They have that natural look, certainly on the older leafless bulbs. But when they're actively growing, the new growths do come out quite big and fat. Now, if you're going to rest that, they won't stay like that. But in their natural environment, they don't stay like that. They do shrivel down and get that crinkled look and shrink a bit, yeah? But not too much. It's an art form, quite honestly. You know, you just have to look at the plant and think, yes, it's absolutely bone dry, but the bulbs aren't changing shape. So they've got enough hydration in those lower temperatures. And if they start to dehydrate, they can have a drop of water, not a soak. You know, that's the last thing they need. Effectively, there's a change in the roots. As the water reduces down, the roots become acclimatized to being drier. So suddenly, absolutely soaking them doesn't do them a lot of good. You know, could even start causing some root rot in places. There's an acclimatization on these types that happens quite fast. And as they go into the autumn and the rains ease off and everything like that, their roots change their character. Some of them even lose their roots during that winter period. And then in the spring, when the new growths come out, and hopefully some blooms, they push out a new root system, along with the new growths and everything. And that's their natural sort of way. And it's very difficult to find that information out at individual plant level. So all you can do is watch the plants you've got. Yeah? And don't let them dehydrate too much. But then don't soak them. Give them a trickle, give them a drop. And just watch those bulbs. And, you know, if you see them start to plump up a little bit, you've done enough. Yeah? It is difficult and yet easy. It depends on your viewpoint, you know. But overwatering resting type, especially the dendrobiums, doesn't do them a lot of good. And it may well infringe their ability to bloom because it's not what they're expecting. You're almost breaking them out of their dormancy if you overwater them when they're resting. But if you don't water them at all, especially if you've got lower air humidity, they will shrivel and you will often lose your root systems. They will just die back because there's no such place as no water. You know, there's morning dew, there's mist, there's fog, you know, there's also some bright sunshine where they come from. So you've got to try and get that environment somewhere near that, and it's difficult and yet easy. And quite honestly, if it's your first winter and you've got resting type dendrobiums, trust me, you might get it wrong. But then the following year, you can look back and think, yeah, I did water too often. I did get them too wet. Or I didn't water them enough and they shriveled down and, you know, my plant has suffered as a consequence. It's a balance. And it takes practice, you know. I mean, I avoided getting resting type dendrobiums in my earlier days simply because it sounded so difficult that I didn't want to risk it. And then eventually I got a couple and I thought, actually, this isn't as bad as I thought. And at first I didn't do it very well. You know, plants came out the other end. This one I've had for years. It's only ever bloomed once. It bloomed this year for the first time, which meant that what I did during last winter was better than previous years, but still not good enough. So this year I will tweak its treatment a bit more, yeah, and just change little things, the frequency of the watering, the amount of the watering. But the one thing I do need to do with some of these is get them in brighter light now. You know, they're into what I call their resting period. It's started, and at this point in their natural environment, deciduous forest, the leaves would be off, so when the sun comes out it's bright. It's as simple as that. So I need to get these over near the glass somewhere, so that when I do get that bright light, they can take real advantage of it. And personally, I still believe that the increase in the light level and the drop in the temperature is the key, rather than the watering. The watering is part of it, but it's certainly not all of it. Yeah? So they need that change in light. It's simple as, if you stand under a tree in the summer, you're in the shade. Yeah? Go back there in the winter on a sunny day and you're in full sun. So that increase in light is vital, in my opinion, as is the drops in temperature, especially the night temperatures. So that's an idea. Everybody does it differently, and you can, out of everybody that does it differently, there's an awful lot of successful people doing it. So it doesn't have to be exactly the same for everybody. We've all got different environments. I keep my humidity relatively high, which probably can't be done in a house environment. I don't add any humidity into this place this time of year. There's more than enough around, with the mounts getting wet, with the pots getting watered, evaporation and all that sort of thing. At 20 degrees, I'm at 74% relative humidity. That's more than high enough for that temperature. There are a few things, like the Ristrepias and Masdevallias, would be happy if that went up another 10 points and was 84. But they don't need it. But they do need it when the temperatures start going up. It's relative humidity. Yeah? Higher the temperatures, the more you need that figure to hang in there and not drop right down. But this time of year, my humidity is the last of my worries. So just a quick chat and a look round. There's nothing new going on out here that wasn't done recently. Yeah, so I'll leave it at that. But watch your winter watering. There are very few orchids that die from not having enough water. Most orchids die from having too much that they can't use. I'll qualify it. Yeah, but more orchids die from watering too often. You notice I don't use the expression over-watering. In my book, it's impossible to over-water an orchid, but it is possible to water it too often. And if it needs to dry in between, at this time of year, that can take quite a long time. So don't put as much water in the first place. Don't drown them. Give them some water, and then wait for that dry. You know, and you should do fine. I mean, you know, you have to adapt to your climate and your country and your environment where you grow your orchids. But keep your eye on things and don't let things shrivel right back to nothing. They won't pull up again the following year. If they desiccate too much during the winter, that's it. Those canes will stay like that. They won't ever plump up again. However, if they shrivel back a little bit, you can plump them up. You can almost see it, you know. Literally, if canes start to, you know, get that sucked in look, and you add a bit of water, they will come back. And it can happen quite quick, you know, within the day that you add the water. They can respond quite quickly. Some are slower, but some can respond pretty quick. And if your leaves are going all limp, yeah, perhaps you need a bit more water and you're overcooking it. It is a difficult time. I mean, in the summer you can probably chuck as much water as you like at the plants and they'll use it. They've got the heat, they've got the longer days, they'll use it up. It's quite difficult to rot plants' roots in the summer because they're just going to use it. They're also growing like mad that time of year as well, or they ought to be, most of them. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. As you saw in my last video, I do have a webcam now. and with some language, some patience and some help from YouTube videos and instructional things, I managed to get the dratted thing working eventually. You'll like this. I was trying it out. Once I was happy that I'd got everything how I wanted it, and it was actually filming and streaming live. The video I made was private, so nobody's seen it, but it was effectively streaming live. I was quite happy that it was all running. And the first thing I noticed was, if I'm going to do a live stream, have a shave beforehand, boy. Boy, did I look scruffy and untidy in that video. Unfortunately, it gives quite a good picture. I can't get away with it. But my cat came to say hello while I was filming, and he had a walk round the keyboard and said hello and put his face up to mine. And then I was looking at the video I was making, and I had a lovely, crisp, sharp shot of the back end of my pussycat. Absolutely marvellous. I'm glad that didn't go live, you know. That's the last thing you really want to see over your breakfast is a cat's bottom. But anyway, I've got it all working, so at some time down the line I will do a live broadcast. I'll publicise it, obviously, otherwise I'll be sat there talking to myself, won't I? And we'll give it a go. As I say, anything that you try for a first time is always a bit nerve-wracking, especially an event like that, because it's real time and all that sort of stuff. No editing, no messing about. You know, if I pick my nose, you're going to see it. Only joking. But you know what I mean. It's a little nerve-wracking, but I will give it a go in the relatively near future, and I'll, you know, make it very public as to when it's going to happen and try and choose a suitable time. Again, I'm in the UK. The number of my viewers in the UK is not my large percentage. Most of my viewers are in the States, and that probably applies to most people. That's where the largest number of people are that are involved, you know. So, you know, that's where a lot of the videos are coming from. So it would be prudent to do a live broadcast at a time that's suitable for the States. And that might not be a suitable time for the rest of the world. You know, bearing in mind the time in the States when people are up and about might be the time that people are in bed in Australia and the Far East. So, you know, I might need to do a couple at 2 different times. But I'll work on it, I'll think about it, and you'll certainly know when it's coming up. And I hope lots of people join in. I don't know what to expect. I haven't done it before. And quite honestly, on YouTube, there aren't that many. You start looking around. I remember, I think it was Sarah Becker did one quite a long time ago. Well, that seemed pretty good. Rachel's done one recently. I know Brad's done some. But there aren't many around. So there's not a lot of people have a go at this live broadcast thing. But I will give it a go, and hopefully we'll have some fun. I'll certainly let you know when it's coming up. Right, see you next time, and watch your watering in the winter. Don't go drowning stuff. Unless it's the type that, you know, I mean, like my Deesers. If they dry out, they'll die. Winter or summer, it's irrelevant. That's where they come from. They don't need to dry out. And if they do, they will die. So there are differences. And knowing the differences, apply the logic to the type of plant. You know, even if they're hybrids, they still have a genetic makeup that takes them back to where one or more species would actually live in the wild. And that's, to me, that's the guideline. Yeah, so, okay. Another thing I want to do, I'll do it as a separate video. When I first started on YouTube, I had some help. I asked for some help. To get a channel up and running is flipping hard work, and it can be disappointing, and I'm sure some people start perfectly good channels with nice orchid collections and fizzle out quite quickly because they get fed up with nobody watching their videos. Well, you know, those that have got quite a few subscribers and are active in the YouTube orchid world, every now and again it's nice to pick up some of the up and coming channels that, you know, you look at, you know, they're getting like 20, 30 views and a couple of comments now and again. They can get picked up by those that have got a bigger audience by just a bit of promotion, just a few words, a mention of the channel, and you can adjust your own channel. There's a section on your page, on mine it's on the right hand side, it's like a promotion area where you can say you might want to go and have a look at these channels. You know, they've got some nice plants. They're doing some pretty good videos here. And try and get them going a bit. It's so difficult when you start out. So I might have a video dedicated to just that. Yeah? Now obviously I'm going to miss some, but it won't be many, because there are people making videos that I might not have found yet. You know, so if I miss anybody, I'll apologise, but you know, if I don't know you exist, how am I supposed to find you? The way to be found in my book is to leave comments on everybody else's videos. It makes your name known, because a lot of people do read the comments. They don't just put their own up there, they have a quick look through what other people have said, you know. So get your face around, get your name around, and it all helps. But it is a difficult time when you're starting out, you know. Some people take off like a rocket, and some just seem to sit in the doldrums, and there's nothing wrong with their videos, and they've got nice orchid collections, they just don't seem to get going. Well, everybody can help each other in that front. That's what we're supposed to be, a community. You know, when somebody needs a bit of help, we offer it. So I might do a video dedicated to that coming soon. Apart from that, I will see you next time. Because even though I haven't got much watering to do, I think the man may have fixed the car. But it's one of those things you don't know if it's fixed till you try it. So, you know, I've literally got to use my car every day now and see if it starts okay. If it does, great. But then I need to leave it and not actually use it for 2, 3, even 4 days and then see if it starts okay. It's just an intermittent problem that we think we may have found. So we'll give it a go. I need to be mobile this weekend. Hopefully my daughter's coming down. I've got an Orchid Society meeting. I'm running out of food. I need to go shopping, you know. I can't stay grounded forever. So see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.